Hello, everyone. My name is June Skeeter. My pronouns are they, them, theirs, and I'm your instructor for Introduction to Geographic Information Systems. So today, I'm just going to give an introductory lecture that's going to give an overview of the course. So I'm going to walk you through the syllabus and show you what the expectations are for the course. And then after I introduce the course webpage and show you how to interact with that and kind of explain some of those expectations, I'm going to give an introductory lecture on GIS. I'm going to tell you what GIS is, give you a pretty broad but comprehensive overview of the history of mapping in general, finishing that out with how the history of cartography led into GIS, and then talk just a little bit about some ways that GIS has been used as a tool for the wrong purposes in the past and how it can be used as a tool for good. So today is just a broad introduction, and then there will be a survey and lecture quiz associated with today so that I can get a little bit of information about who you all are. I'm interested to know where you are, so at least like what time zone you're in so that I can try and make things as flexible as possible. So with that said, we'll just get into it. I'll pull up the course webpage and we can get started. Okay, so this is the course homepage. You can find links here to all the relevant information for the class. So again, you can find my info, my email. I have office hours twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays between 2 and 3 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. You're also welcome to schedule them by appointment. I recognize that some of you might be in a time zone where these times are in the middle of the night or something, or if that just conflicts with something else you've got going on, I'm more than happy to schedule an appointment at whatever time suits for you. So office hours are on Zoom. You can follow this Zoom link to find them. And then I've got the key course information here. So I've got the syllabus and the lab details pages linked. You will see the current lecture module and the current lab assignments posted once they're live. So this lecture module will be hyperlinked here starting tomorrow morning. So let's look at the syllabus first to get some key info for the class. So before I get into anything, and you can tell that, or you can see here, I've got links to different key parts of the syllabus. Before I get into anything, I just want to do a land acknowledgement. It's very important to acknowledge the indigenous lands upon which we are located, which we live, work, and play. So I myself live in Vancouver. UBC is also obviously in Vancouver. And so Vancouver is located on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Coast Salish people, including the Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, and Squamish nations. Since some of you are spread around the continent, I encourage you to take a look at nativeland.ca. You can see the indigenous territories, languages, and treaties where you're located. So this map is just a sort of starting point, jumping off point, first resource. It's not like the end-all, be-all resource, but it's fairly comprehensive, and it's got information for the Americas, Australia, New Zealand, and a handful of other locations around the world. And so you can see it's interactive. You can click, zoom, pan, and find information for the various nations in your area. And if you click on a nation, links come up and more information is available. So this is a great example of interactive GIS. It's free, openly available on the internet. Anyone can interact with it. And we'll talk more about things like this later on in the term. So moving on, course overview. This is an introduction to geographic information systems and geographic information science. I'll talk a little bit about how those two meanings are very closely related but distinct in just a little bit in lecture. But so this course will expose you to some of the key concepts and tools that we use to collect, map, interpret geospatial data. So you're going to learn how geospatial data can be used to aid decision making, complement scientific analysis, assist with urban planning, help inform policymakers, things like that. And you're going to gain practical experience using GIS to solve problems in both the natural and human realms. And by the end of the course, you should learn a handful of things, get a pretty broad overview of GIS, learn why geospatial data is unique, understand how a GIS functions and how they can be used to solve problems, gain experience with software packages commonly used, be able to explain real-world features and how they're represented in a GIS, learn how to visualize data, get a practical working knowledge of ArcGIS Pro, which is a state-of-the-art GIS software package. And I'll introduce you to some other options for GIS as well, though the course is primarily focused on Arc Pro. It's one of the easier packages for new users to learn how to use. But once you learn Arc Pro, you can apply those skills to any other software package you want. So you'll be able to explain and analyze sources of error in GIS, discuss the ethical implications. I'm going to focus a lot on ethics. I think it's pretty important, especially towards the end of term. But even today, I'm going to mention it a fair bit. Analyze and critique maps and work collaboratively to synthesize your work. So the format of the course is going to consist of lecture modules that I'm going to post twice weekly with corresponding lecture quizzes. Then there's going to be 4 lab assignments and a final project and a final exam. So this is a very application-based, hands-on-based course. So the lab assignments are going to be 40% of your mark. And then the lecture quizzes are going to be 10%. The final project and the final exam are both going to be 25%. So this is just tentative. It may change slightly depending on if I decide to add or take out, say, a discussion assignment or something like that. So it's just tentative, but this is approximately the breakdown. And so you can expect the labs to be weighted pretty heavily. So for the labs, there's going to be 4 assignments. The lab assignments are going to provide hands-on practical experience with GIS software and give you an opportunity to explore spatial analysis and how to communicate geographic information. Communicating your results is just as important as your analysis. You have the most well-rounded analysis out there, but if you don't make an effective map, it doesn't really matter. So because this is an abbreviated term, normally in a full semester you have 2 weeks for each lab assignment, but and there's normally 5 labs in a term, but I've condensed things. So because it's an abbreviated term, you're only going to have 1 week for each lab exercise. So the lab assignments are going to be posted Thursday mornings, first thing in the morning, and they'll be due 7 days later, so that's 11:59 or 23:59 on Wednesday night. And so you can see the lab details page for more information. I will discuss that in a minute after I run through the syllabus. Then there's lecture modules. So again, this course is asynchronous, so I'll just post videos and you can watch them at your own leisure. I aim to have sets of short videos rather than one long video. So the week 1 introductory video might be a little bit long just because I have a lot to get through. But I aim to break things up into like videos by subtopic. So hopefully each video will be 5 to 15 minutes long, and I'll have you watch, 4 to 6 videos per lecture assignment rather than having you watch me talk for an hour and a half. I think it's easier for people to get through that way. So each lecture module is going to have a corresponding lecture quiz. So with the lecture quizzes, they're just going to be simple little Canvas quizzes. The mark is 50% participation, so you get half the credit just for doing it. And then the other 50% is content-based. And you can take the quizzes as many times as you want to refine your answers if you need. So the lecture modules are going to be posted on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And the corresponding lecture quizzes, you'll have 48 hours after the module is posted to complete the quiz. Now, if you wait till after that, you can still complete the quiz, but there will be a late penalty assigned. Same thing with the lab assignments, and I'll discuss the late policy in just a moment. So then there's a final project, which is going to be your opportunity to apply the concepts learned in lecture and the skills learned in lab to any topic that interests you. So students are going to conduct geospatial analysis of your choosing, and you'll define a research question, acquire and analyze spatial data, produce maps, visualizations, and write a brief report. And so the way the project is going to work is it's optional to work as a group. I encourage you to work as a group. One, it decreases your workload, and it also makes it easier for marketing if there's fewer projects. But I recognize that working remotely, things are difficult, so if people prefer to work alone, I will allow that. And then there's a final exam, which is going to be comprehensive for the full course, and details on the final will be posted closer to the exam date. So just a little bit about me. Again, my name is June. My pronouns are they, them, theirs. You can email me here. And so I am a non-binary geographer and educator with a passion for social and ecological justice. I use GIS extensively in my own research studying climate change in the Arctic, and I intend to incorporate some examples of how I've used GIS in the past in lecture where appropriate. And more recently, I've started using GIS to investigate and map police violence in Canada as well. And so I'll talk a bit about that later on in the term too. So I've been teaching GIS for 5 years now. I've been working in GIS for over a decade. So I've been teaching first as a TA and now as an instructor for this course. This is my third time teaching this class. And so my aim in teaching the course is to help show people how GIS can be used as a tool to help make the world a better place. It's a really powerful tool that can be used, and it can be implemented to create a lot of positive change. So just a brief look at the schedule. Again, this is a very condensed course, so it's going to be a lot of information coming at you every week. The course is broken up into 6 weeks. So week 1 through 6 is going to be lecture content, and then we're going to have an asynchronous final exam after that. And so each week we'll have 2 lecture modules, and you can see a brief outline of the topics here. And then there's the corresponding lab schedule below. So again, we'll have 4 labs that will each be posted and then due 7 days later. And then we'll have a final project, which will be posted on the 7th. The final project will have a brief proposal, which is just a short little outline of this is what I'm thinking about doing. And then the project will be due on the 21st of June. So regarding communication in this course, it's quite important, especially given that everything's asynchronous. We don't have a specific meeting time. Office hours are going to be held weekly, again, between 14 and 1500 Pacific Daylight Time, or by appointment. Please don't hesitate to reach out to schedule an appointment if there's a different time that works better for you. So office hours are your chance to ask me any questions you might have about the course content or anything more broadly in general. Feel free to drop by and introduce yourself tomorrow if you want. There's also a course discussion board, so you can post general questions about the course content, policies, labs, etc. on the discussion board. This is a good resource, good option, because chances are if you're confused about something, then probably your classmates are as well. And so either your TA or I will respond within 24 to 48 hours, depending on when you post. So if you post over a weekend, I won't get back to it until Monday. But if you post during the week, it should be a 24-hour response time. And so for questions pertaining to your own personal situation, if you don't feel it's appropriate to post to the discussion board, anything relating to lab assignments, if you need an extension or anything on a lab, just email the TA directly. And for other questions, email me. So regarding the late policy, because this is a condensed summer course, I've got a pretty sharp late policy, so 5% penalty for any lab assignments, lecture quizzes, final projects, 5% per day. So exceptions to this can be made on a case-by-case basis. We don't need to know your exact situation. If you want to share, feel free, but point is you don't need to know the details of it, but you do need to communicate your need for accommodation by emailing your TA directly for your lab, or emailing me for lecture quizzes or projects. So again, accommodations can be made on a case-by-case basis if you communicate your need for an extension in advance. Do not wait until after the assignment is due to request an extension, because, again, it will be denied. So, that said, I aim to be as flexible and as accommodating as possible this term. I recognize that this is a really difficult time for people. We're all tired of online learning. You're tired of learning online. I'm tired of teaching online. We all look forward to being able to do this in person, hopefully in the fall. So I do aim to be accommodating and flexible, but the onus is on you to communicate your needs. Regarding accommodations, any students who need an academic accommodation should contact Access and Diversity. And so please just send me your accommodation letter if you have one or if you're getting one. So please send that to me within the first week of the course. And feel free and please discuss with me any special accommodations that you might need to help remove barriers to access so that you can do your best work during the course. And lastly, just a note on academic integrity. So I take academic integrity very seriously. It's one of the foundational principles of the academic enterprise, is that you do your own work. So all that to say, plagiarism and cheating will be taken very seriously. So first incident of plagiarism, like copying and pasting from Wikipedia or something, cheating will result in a 0 for your assignment. But if it becomes an issue, further issues will be reported and could result in more serious consequences. Hopefully we can avoid that. Just do your own work and we won't have that issue. So back to the course homepage, you can see there's a link to the lab details page. So there are 2 lab sections that meet twice per week. So labs are a really essential part to learning GIS. So you're going to learn the theory in lecture, but you're going to learn the application and practice in labs, how to apply GIS to real-world issues. So since we're learning online this term, lab arrangements are going to be slightly more complicated than usual. In a normal semester, you just walk into the lab, sit down, log into a computer, and go with things from there. Unfortunately, we can't do that right now. So this page contains details about how to access our GIS Pro software, about how the labs will run. So please familiarize yourself with this. So to start with, there are 2 lab sections, L1A and L1B. Each lab section has a corresponding TA, Avinash and Tin. You can see, I'll introduce you to them in just a moment. But point being, there are 2 lab sections. Labs meet asynchronously on Zoom via these links. Lab attendance is strongly encouraged, but it is not mandatory. So 2 points. Please make sure to sign up for a lab section, L1A or L1B. It doesn't matter which one you sign up for. It's just important for our bookkeeping purposes and communication purposes that you are registered for one or the other. So if you're in L1A, any email communications regarding extensions or anything you send to Avinash. L1B, send any communications to Tim. That said, you may attend any multiple lab times throughout the week. So these lab sessions are meant strictly to be just like drop-ins for you to get help. We want to be as flexible as possible. We've tried to schedule the labs at times so that people, regardless of what time zone they're in, at least hopefully one of them will work. So, if you're in L1A, feel free to drop into the L1B session. We want you to be able to drop in and ask for help whenever you need it when you're working through the labs, right? So you have a week to do the labs. They're going to be posted on Thursdays and due on Wednesdays. So there's labs Thursdays and Fridays if you want to get an early start, labs Tuesdays and Wednesdays if you get a little bit of a later start. So again, the lab assignments are going to be posted on Thursdays and due the following Wednesdays. Each lab will be posted with a corresponding short introductory video. So I'll just explain what you're doing in the lab and why. And then during the 2-hour lab periods on Zoom, you'll work through the lab assignment and have opportunity to ask questions of your fellow classmates and the TA. So throughout the labs, you can work together. That's not a problem. So you can work with classmates to help each other through lab assignments, but all students must submit their own original work. So some of the questions, for instance, require you to write up a paragraph or two. You can't all submit the same paragraph. That would be in violation of the academic integrity policy and could cause issues. So everything needs to be in your own words. That said, feel free, I encourage you even, to discuss and work together. GIS is a collaborative topic, collaborative science, and so a key part of it is working together. But you have to submit your own work. Don't just copy and paste what your classmates write. If you ever get stuck, some additional resources besides your TAs or myself that are helpful, the Esri technical support page, and then GIS forum called Stack Exchange. And also Google's a great resource. Just if you're running into an issue, just type ArcGIS Pro, how do I, and then whatever your question is. Chances are you'll be able to find the answer. So regarding software and computer access, you'll be using Esri's ArcGIS Pro software package to complete your lab assignment. So you have two options for accessing the software. You can access it remotely via the geography lab computers in the geography department. You have to pay a $20 lab fee to do that. Or you can purchase a student version of the software and install it on your own computer. That costs $30. So ArcGIS Pro requires a computer that runs Windows. If you have a laptop or PC that's running Mac or Linux, instead you can get around this by installing a Windows partition on your hard drive and using a virtual machine. However, if possible, we recommend, so the remote desktop connection can be a little bit easier for Mac or Linux users. We can't offer you guidance on how to partition your hard drive, for instance. And you should be able to find some resources for that online. So we've got some instructions on how you can partition your hard drive, but again, we're not tech support. We're not qualified to help you through these instructions. But if you want to install it on your own computer and you have Mac or Linux, the first step is to partition your hard drive. Also, it's important to check that your computer meets the system requirements for ArcGIS Pro. And then you can follow this link to purchase the software. So note that on the UBC web store, they are selling ArcGIS desktop, not ArcGIS Pro. ArcGIS Pro is like the upgraded version of it. That said, once you make your purchase, you can contact Jose, who is the department lab technician, and he will send you a link to download ArcGIS Pro. So basically, you go here, you buy ArcGIS, and then you email Jose your receipt and say, okay, I need the link to download the advanced software package. Now, if you want to use the geography department computers instead, which again may be easier, especially if you're working on a Mac. That said, if you have an unstable internet connection, it may cause more issues than it's worth. But if you want to use the geography department lab computers instead, pay the lab fee. I'll edit that. This is from last term. So the lab fee will be due, well, basically, if you want to use the geography department computers instead, pay the lab fee, and then you can email Jose again. See his email here. I'll edit this to make it a little more clear before I post it. Email Jose after you pay the lab fee, and he will send you the logon credentials, so your username and password to log into the geography department computer. And so in order to remotely access the lab computers, you can follow these instructions here. And then more information about the geography lab computers can be found here in this link. In particular, there's a lab schedule, so please refrain from remotely logging into computers when there are other lab courses in session. But that said, I don't think there are actually any other classes using the geography lab this summer. So this again applies more to a normal term. I think we're the only ones here, although don't quote me on it. If you're working on a geography lab computer, it's very important to save and store your work properly. And so we will update this before the first lab is posted. We'll have a short instructional video on how to save properly. So we'll cover that in a little bit. So just quickly, here's your TAs. So again, make sure you register for L1A or L1B, and then you can contact your TA who is in your corresponding lab session if you have any questions you need answered by email, any requests for extensions or anything like that. That said, as far as the Zoom drop-ins, again, feel free to attend whichever lab session works for you. So that's the overview introduction of the course. Now I'm just going to give you a quick lecture on what GIS is and the history of GIS.